I can hardly believe it myself, but it has already been a year since I traded my embarrassingly well-paid job in IT for the life of an impoverished artist. And in this video, I want to share with you 10 things that I've learned about being a professional landscape photographer. And no, I am not wearing this shirt for a bet. Yeah, so a year's gone by. I have absolutely no idea where that time has gone, but I have learned a lot about this industry. And that's what I want to talk to you about in this video, so that if you ever find yourself in a position where you're considering becoming a professional landscape photographer, you have some idea what this lifestyle is actually like. Okay, so jumping straight in at number one, the first thing I've learned about being a full-time landscape photographer is that you have to work hard. Now, in my old job, I was contracted to work about 37.5 hours a week, and I pretty much stuck to that. It's not that I was a clock watcher, but I had a boss who was very keen to make sure that we got a good work-life balance, so I roughly stuck to that. Jump forward a year, and my average week is about 72 hours, I estimate. Now, my average day is about 12 hours long, and 18-hour days are not uncommon. And I also work 6 days a week. I do allow myself 1 day off a week. But the great thing about it is that when you are doing something that you are so passionate about, it really doesn't feel like work. The second thing I've learned about being a full-time landscape photographer is that you don't earn an awful lot of money. Now, obviously, I knew this before I made the switch. I knew that by moving from IT to photography, I would be massively reducing my earning potential. Now, I set myself some targets, and for the first year, I've hit those targets, despite the fact that coronavirus came along and messed everything up. But this week, I've been looking back at my business plan and my financial projections, and it's pretty clear that my targets for year 3 are very, very, very optimistic indeed. Now, I want to make this clear to everybody that you get into this career for the lifestyle. If you've got a taste for big houses and fast cars, then this probably isn't the career for you. The third thing I've learned about this industry is you have to diversify. It is bad business practice to put all of your eggs into one basket, and I learned that the hard way. When I started the business, I had some early successes running photography tuition on location here in the Lake District. And so very early on, I made the decision that that's what I wanted to concentrate on in year 1. And then, of course, along comes coronavirus and the travel restrictions, and people weren't able to come to the Lake District, and my business was wiped out overnight. Since then, I've been working hard to develop a diverse range of products and services. My long-term goal is to develop about 10 different income streams, each contributing about 10% to my income. And ultimately, some of those income streams may have absolutely nothing to do with photography whatsoever. We're really cracking along now, and the fourth thing that I've learned about this industry is you have to prioritize. And what I mean by that is that there are many, many ways that you can generate an income in this industry, and lots of people have made lots of fantastic suggestions whether I can make money. The question isn't knowing how to make money, it's actually knowing what to focus on first. And I feel that that varies from one photographer to the next. And the way that I choose to build my income streams and my business will probably be different from many other photographers out there. Now, what I've decided to do initially is to focus on providing products and services for my existing audience. Now, that is, of course, photography enthusiasts. But in the long term, I'm probably going to have to look at other markets and developing products and services that meet their specific needs. Now, it's all very good and well having lots of different products and services, but it's not going to do you any good at all if nobody knows about them. And that brings me on to the fifth thing that I've learned, and that is marketing is the key to success. For the last year, I have focused on content marketing. That is essentially producing as much content about landscape photography as I possibly can in order to raise my profile within the industry. And to a certain degree, that has been successful, but it hasn't been as successful as I would have liked. The problem is that I've invested too much time in producing ineffective content. For the next 12 months, I've been forced to develop a whole new strategy for YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my website that's a lot more focused on adding value and solving people's problems. The next thing that I learned is that you spend most of your time actually running your business. Now, what I mean by that is I estimate that I spend about 80% of my time doing things that do not directly generate an income. So that might be managing my finances, or it might be responding to emails, or even producing marketing content. The big problem that I've got is that not all of that time has been spent effectively, and I'll give you an example. I estimate that on average I spend 8 hours a week replying to comments on YouTube, and despite all of that effort, in the last 4 months I have seen my views drop by a third. The thing is, if you're going to spend so much time actually running your business than earning money, you better make damn sure that that time is being spent effectively. And number 7 is a really big one for me, and that is that your work will improve. Now, part of the reason why I wanted to go full-time as a landscape photographer is I wanted to have more time to dedicate to my photography. I wanted to see how good I could get. Before I went full-time, I was only able to shoot 1 morning a week, but since then it's been closer to 3 or 4, and that's obviously going to have a big impact on the rate at which your photography is improving. And over the last 12 months, I definitely feel that there has been an improvement in my work, particularly in my use of foreground, but also in my use of black and white photography. Now, for the year ahead, I know I need to focus more on my long lens landscapes and my intimate compositions. Now, number 8 is something that I've really struggled with over the last 12 months, and that is that not everybody will like your work. It's a simple fact that in a creative industry such as this, if you try and please everybody, you're going to end up pleasing no one. Now, come on, nobody likes to be criticised, and I am no different from anybody else. It is something that I've really struggled with this year. The worst thing that I've done in the last 12 months is allowed other people's opinions to influence my work. When the criticism was at its absolute worst and I was at my lowest point, I stopped taking risks, and my photography suffered as a result. Now, I have people turning up on this channel week in, week out, trying to undermine my own personal philosophies of photography and also to chip away at my confidence. But the thing is, I've learned so much over the last 12 months, and my confidence has grown immeasurably. And I'm also a damn sight more prepared to stand up for myself these days. I am no longer the soft target that I once was. We have already made it to my penultimate point, and one that I was expecting the least, and that is that your relationships will suffer. Now, I'm not talking about the really important relationships here in my life, for example, the relationship with my wife or the relationship with my parents. If anything, they have never been stronger. What I'm talking about here is the relationships that I formed with other photographers. And so when I first started my YouTube channel, I spent an awful lot of time building relationships with other photographers, other YouTubers, and I predominantly did that by watching their content and supporting them by leaving comments as often as I could. Unfortunately, 12 months down the line, I find that I'm actually watching a lot less YouTube than I did before. Almost none at all. The problem is that whenever it comes to watching YouTube, I always feel that there's something else that I should be doing, something to help my business grow. As a result, I pretty much lost touch with all of the other YouTubers. And I think in hindsight, this was inevitable. You see, the thing about a relationship is it needs commitment from both parties. And if one party is more committed than the other, then ultimately that relationship will die. And unfortunately, in this case, I have nobody to blame but myself. Now, there is, of course, one exception to that, and that is my good friend Julian Baird. The biggest regret that I had when I went full-time is that Julian wouldn't be able to join me for the ride. You see, we kind of started together on YouTube at roughly the same sort of time, and we grew together on the platform, and we also grew together as photographers. And when I went full-time, it did feel a little bit like I was leaving Jules behind. But in reality, I speak to Jules at least once a week, and he has been there for me every step of the way. Okay, so this is the big one, number 10. the final thing that I've learned in my first year as a landscape photographer, and that is, it is the best job in the world. Now, you might think that the long hours, the low pay, and the constant trolling would be enough to make me regret my decision, but you could not be more wrong. I have never been happier. After searching for 45 years, it finally feels like I have found the thing that I am supposed to be doing with my life. Building a life around your passion is every bit as rewarding as I hoped it would be. My final word on the matter is this: every Sunday night I go to bed excited at what Monday morning is going to bring. Now, who here wouldn't want that?